Good evening, friends. This is the third webinar from Ashok and Rita Patel Institute of Physiotherapy. Today's webinar topic is thinking of moving to Australia. For this webinar, we have with us as a presenter, Dr. Neelam Patel. She is the assistant professor of Ashok and Rita Patel Institute of Physiotherapy, Charuset. She has been there in Australia for several years, so she can help us out in relation to how one can move from India to Australia and how can we have that journey as smooth as possible. So we welcome Dr. Neelam Patel, and over to you, ma'am. You can guide us in the best possible manner.
Thank you, Dr. Dhruv. Thank you, Dr. Bala, for kind of giving me this opportunity. And thank you, everyone, for joining today's session. I know most of you all are busy preparing for your uni exams, so wish you all the best for that as well. And I hope today's session will open up alternate pathways for you for your future career. Um, Before we get started, a few disclaimers. I am not claiming to be an migration agent. I am fairly going to talk based on my research, my experience that I've seen other friends and colleagues go through when we moved to Australia, when I've seen them coming through over the years. I've been in Australia for almost 18 years, so I think I've got a fair bit of experience bank from which I can talk. But for anything, please cross-check details with the authorities. That's your main authorities that you would want to go to for Australia is your APC, which I'll be talking about, and your immigration department. So I'll give you details about all of that. So we'll get started. All good, sir? Dhruv, sir? Okay. All right. So if I'm going to share my screen now. Okay. So now, if you have decided to move to Australia, bravo, decision well taken. I love Australia, and I know you will fall in love with it too. But now we'll talk about how to. A lot of people over the years, and most of the times when people come through, or even sometimes when they are trying. Have I been muted, sir? It says okay. Yeah, I've been unmuted. So even when I'm trying, even when people are trying to come to Australia, I think most of the times they're a bit lost. They have no idea why they have made the move. So I think if you're in that path in life, or at that point where you think you want to do something better and you want to go somewhere, I think first you need to sit down with a pen and paper and jot down a few thoughts. Ask yourself before even you start talking to anyone else. You should ask yourself, why do you really want to move? There are lots of reasons why people want to move. One is gaining knowledge. So is that what you want to do? Do you want to go overseas only to gain knowledge? And that is very much a fair point, because what happens is when we went, there weren't many courses or specialities available in India. So we had no choice but to go overseas. But nowadays there are lots of choices available here. So check if that's what you really want to do. You want to go overseas to get your qualification. If you want to, I would say graduate, work here for 2-3 years. Go work with different organizations and get your field, get what your calling is. Um, um, Again, going back to my experience, when I graduated, I thought neuro was my calling. I worked in the field for 2-3 years, and then I realized I need results straight away. I don't have the patience that a neuro therapist should have. And that's when musculoskeletal and sports became my calling. That's what I wanted to do in life. That makes your choices a lot easier. Then simply what you need to do is very basic. Look at what subject you want to specialize in, and go for it. Look at the uni that offers it, the best uni, and you don't have to worry about the country, as long as the country is a safe country to go to. And you start your process. But if migration is something that you're doing by choice because you just want to migrate, there are a couple of reasons people do that too. Some people go there because they've got a joint family. So again, that kind of narrows down your options, and you don't have a choice. You just go where your family is. Some people want to go overseas to be adventurous. So you want to decide if you fall in this category, you want to start your research quite in advance. You want to start comparing countries. Look at their climate. You don't want to go to a place that is frozen half the time. And if you're from a tropical climate, you will hate it. In 5 years' time, your life will be miserable because you're cold the whole time. You don't have any life. In the sense, it will become very boring. Look at the GDP growth. Look at job opportunities. Where are physios paid well? What are the life expectancies there? Do they give health cover? You don't want to spend your life working, toiling too hard, going to a country where it's just hard. It's an uphill process all the way. Look at lifestyle. I mean, you obviously want to go somewhere where your lifestyle is going to be better than what it is here. And basically, the lifestyle has to meet your requirements. So if you're a girl, you don't like cooking, cleaning. Um, then you want to think twice, because if you go overseas, you'd have to do all of that. I mean, you can get maids and all, but practically, hey, how many people can, hey? So you want to make sure that you have covered all those bases. Then you narrow down your search to 2-3 countries. Look at the migration process for all those 3 countries, 2-3 countries, whichever you've chosen, and then list your priorities, and then you start the process. So I hope that kind of gives you an idea about what you should do. Once you've made these choices, list them down, talk to your family, and then if it sits well with everyone, that's where you start your process of, okay, now I want to go, I know why I want to go to this country, I know what I'm going to do. That brings us to migration again. So migration by studying. So if you're going to migrate to study, there are two choices again. So I want to migrate, and I want to do it at any cost. So I want to go to Australia. I don't care how I go. I just want to go and live there. That's my choice, which is fine. Am I serious about physics? Maybe not. I don't mind changing professions. Sometimes people are, they're fed up with their professions. I had a friend who was an OT. He hated his job. He got into construction industry. He's a builder. He does well. He earns well. He is respected. So that's again a choice that you make. A lot of people we see come down to study physiotherapy, and then they change profession. Somebody became a plumber because that's what his calling was, and he's doing well. And by the way, a plumber is paid better than a physio in Australia. Okay, so if your thing is that I don't care what profession it is, then go through the skilled occupational list, see what profession gets good points, look at courses that would be offered and that are relevant to your study as well, and you find that pathway. Just be mindful. Do not make choices that you're going to regret later. I see so many engineering students come and do nursing only because nursing is a highly recognized job there right now, and you get easy migration. So you don't want to fall into those loopholes. I mean, engineering is far cut out from health. Unless that's your calling, you don't want to change something just because it's not an accepted thing, right? Okay, now the other thing is, if you want to go there and you want to study, you want to really study, and you want to make sure that you continue with your physiotherapy profession, again, you have two choices. One choice is going to be that you come there, you take up a course that actually gives you registration, because the registration, the whole difficulty with migrating to Australia is the registration exams. So you want to make sure those registration exams, if you're not fussed about what course you take or what you study, then I think you can take up a course that gives you registration. Maybe you repeat some of the things that you already know. Maybe the degree is not as valid, in the sense it's not giving you more information than what you already know. So but it's at least giving you registration at the end of it. So make sure you've checked with your uni that what the course is offering and what it's giving you. And there you go. So you do the course, you get registration, you apply for migration. The second option is where you go, no, I want to study something that I love, where I'm going to gain more knowledge. I don't want to waste my time. And I will study, I will do this course. If it doesn't give me registration, that's fine. I am confident enough that I will be able to pass the registration exams, because end of the day, those registration exams are made by physios. They're made by physios to make sure that physios can come and work in that country. Now, so let me, I was going to do this later, but I'll let you know now. A simple thing is, in Australia, Australian physios are highly recognized worldwide. We all know that, yeah? The moment you say somebody, I'm a physio, registered physio in Australia, you kind of go, oh, wow, that's really a good thing. Why? Because they've maintained very high standards for their profession there. They don't want anyone to come in and goof it up not because they are bad physios, only because they didn't know what was expected out of them. So basically, this is what those exams are doing. They're telling you what they expect you to do once you're out there in those fields. And if you think you cannot deliver what is expected, you want to rethink whether Australia is your calling. Right, so those are your pathways. Now let's go down. If you decide that you want to study there and you've decided on a course, so basically what do you want to do after that? um, as I was saying, Australian physios are the best worldwide, and I don't say that, the world says it. It's only because it is pretty tough. The education system has very high standards. I mean, so does Indian education system. And their practice, you first contact practitioners in Australia, so you don't need a GP to refer to you. It's actually the other way around. You refer patients off to GP, and most of the times the GPs respect you so much that you give them a call and you tell them, sir, I think this person has this, and I want you to get them to go for an MRI, or I want you to kind of get them to go see a specialist. Most of those doctors will not cross question your judgment. They'll say, fine, you call up a specialist. They will answer your call. They respect your opinion. You say, sir, you've sent me this patient and your judgment is different, and I think this is what's happening to them, and they'll say, oh yeah, that's good, why don't you try it out? They do not question you. So that's where you want to keep up your standard and your level of knowledge. So coming back to your course, so check the uni course that you're going to. So if you're going to a uni and you've decided on a course, first you want to check the uni. So there are many universities. I was just going to show you how to do that. There are many universities here that will actually show you the unis. Oh wow, okay. Sorry, I think they stopped sharing my screen. So I'm going to just take you. No, sorry. Oh, that's okay. I will just show it to you on the PowerPoint then. Um, so you choose a uni and you go, this is my uni. This is the uni that I'm going to. First check whether the uni is valid enough. So this is just a kind of a table that'll come up when you go to the link, and it'll show you where your uni sits. So you want to make sure your uni is a good uni. Most Australian unis are pretty good, so it shouldn't be a problem. But sorry, can you guys see my screen there? Yeah, sorry, Dr. Dhruv, can somebody just tell me, can you see my screen?
No, ma'am, it's not visible, ma'am.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Okay, sorry. But you all can hear me, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Gonna...
now it's working.
Okay, all right. So let's get there. So, okay, yeah, now I've got it. So you go to a uni, look at that your uni is at a good standing, then look at the course. Most unis in Australia are pretty good, so you kind of can be safe. But you still want to double check. You never know what kind of unis come up tomorrow. Then check the course content. Is the course offering you things that you really want to study? Go through the objectives, the outcomes, talk to the course coordinator. Is it really the answer to all your questions? So this is what I showed you before. And is the course recognized? So you want to go to the APRA website, which I have mentioned over there, and go, is the course recognized? I wish I could show you. I'll show you all these screens towards the end before I finish, so that it doesn't break the presentation in the middle. But yeah, you go to the APRA website and check whether your course is approved. So if you're getting a bachelor's degree in physiotherapy or master's degree in physiotherapy, is that approved as a physiotherapy degree? Because a lot of people I've seen have gone and done their masters in some health something, and then that doesn't give them the point system that they need for migration, and then it's just a waste of time for them. Coming to point system, I'll tell you a bit more about that as well. Now, the other thing you want to ask your uni is, does the course give you registration rights? So check with your uni and tell them, will I get automatically registered when I do this? I mean, you still have to register with APRA, but does that give you the rights to register? Some unis will say yes, some unis will say partial, which is the FLYR system, where you just have to give the written exam and the cultural sensitivity safety training exam. Otherwise, you don't have to do the practical exam there. So you want to check what kind of registration rights that uni gives you. And is your profession eligible for the skilled occupational list? So as I said, physiotherapy is, why is that important? Because it gives you 10 points. Okay, so these are the point system that you will need to migrate. So ultimately, after you finish your studies and you decide to migrate, you will need this kind of point system to kind of they need around 60 to 65 points. So I've just made an example here. So most of you will be 25 years plus when you get start this process, so that'll give you 30 points. English proficiency, so if you kind of given your English exams, it'll give you 10. Employment overseas, this is where working for 3 years before you go overseas will help, is because that'll give you 5 points. Because physio is on the SLO list, it'll give you 10 points. And if you're single or if your partner is a PR holder or a citizen, that gives you 10 points. There are many other ways of getting 10 points. Once you get there, just make sure you work in a profession that is relevant to physiotherapy or related to physiotherapy. So like a physio assistant, or if you're lucky enough and if you can get a physio job under a limited registration, that is somebody oversees you working, and you can do that for a year. That'll give you extra points as well. To be on the safer side, now remember, all of this will change. This is today, this is how it is. Tomorrow it can be different, it can be different the next year. So you want to make sure you keep checking all of this with the immigration website. Keep in touch with the immigration website, look at the point system, look at the occupational list. Is physio on there? Because remember, the occupation list will change as well. If they don't need physios anymore, they'll just take that out from the list. So to be on the safer side, I would say you should make sure that your application, whenever you put it in, meets more than 70 points or so. So there is no room for, like, any mishap happening at the last moment. So your Australian education will give you some points. You can go and do a community language. I mean, like Hindi is a community language, so you can go and train up and get credentials for that and take points in that as well. So that'll be your point system. So that is the process roughly. Now the actual process of clearing the registration exams, which we all are so worried about. Now your go-to guru or your go-to resource for this is the Physio Council. That's the APC website. And what the APC, Australian Physiotherapy Council, what do they do is they assess you in a couple of different ways. They have a standard pathway, which most of us take. Then there's this pathway, the equivalence of qualification program, which is quite new. There are two verifications of it. One is an existing program and the other is a new program. And then you have to go to them again when you want to migrate. So you'll get in touch with them, and they're lovely people, believe me. You have any questions, you don't need to bother asking anyone. Email it to them. Go through, first study their website, go through every page, every attachment, and then whatever questions you have, note them down, flick them an email, and I can promise within 24 to 48 hours they will get back to you, however silly your question is. I mean, it never is silly, because if you don't know the information, you don't know whether it's silly or not. But I think they're pretty cool about it. They'll get back to you on that. So let me tell you about equivalence of qualification. Is this for you? So what is that? Is there is a list of universities that is listed on the APC website. These universities are mainly in US, Canada, Spain, which APC, the Australian board, recognizes them as having qualifications, or the education system is equivalent to the Australian education system. So if your education or your graduation falls under those universities, you don't need to sit the exams. It's a fast track process. You put in your applications with the necessary documents, and I think within 10 days under the fast track system, you get your you get clearance to get registered. So unfortunately, no Indian university is on the existing program list. Now, equivalence of qualification, new program. This is where we all as a group can do lots. This is a ever building, ever changing program. So what happens is, here is they will assess your university to see if it qualifies for the equivalence of qualification program. So there's a fact sheet. Again, I've put attachments in there, and I wish I could show it to you all, but I think towards the end, I will share my screen and show you all the links to the relevant sites. You look at the fact sheet. their list of questions, their objectives, how are those objectives met and how are they assessed. If your university can go through it for you and tell you, I mean, you have to go through it first. You have to do all the background work for university. And if the university can provide you with proof for everything, and if those proofs kind of are acceptable to APC, you will fall under this category and you will not have to give registration exams. Now, it means that your graduate program has to be equivalent to undergraduate program in Australia. Now remember, these fees are not refundable, so you don't want to get in there if you have any doubts. If you have any doubts in any of the questions, don't worry taking this up. But well, at the same time, it is an opportunity. If your university gets recognized under this, that means all the students that are coming from the same university, things will be made a lot easier for them. So well, that's food for thought. If you can work on that, well and good. So that's equivalence of qualification. As of now, none of us in India qualify for this. So what do we have to do is we've got to go through the standard pathway. So what will the standard pathway do is, first we have to get your credentials checked. So you check whether you're eligible to work in Australia as a physiotherapist. There is a fact sheet on the website. As I said, I will show you all of those once I can get out of this page and then get into the other without getting off screen. All right. So it's an eligibility thing. You submit all your documents, make sure they're attested properly, go through the fact sheets, go through the self-assessment tool, make sure all the boxes are ticked. Have you submitted all your degrees, your transcripts, your photos, everything? Submitted via Dropbox, and I think in 2 weeks' time they get back to you. Always ask them to get back to you via email. It's quicker. All right. So once you've done that, so then you are eligible to give the cultural safety training thing. Now, cultural safety training is a new thing which is compulsory for everyone. Like even if you're in that under the equivalence of qualification thing. Why is it important? What does it do? Is basically it tells you about a bit about Australian culture. Australia is a mix of different nationalities and different cultures. And one of the culture that you have to really respect there is the Aboriginal culture. So the Aboriginal people, they are quite traditional, if I can say that. And there are some do's and don'ts that you follow with them. You kind of have to understand their culture to relate to them. So basically this training is just all about cultural sensitivity. You have to pass it. You have to get 80% in it. And obviously you pay for it as well. Right. So once you are through this process, APC will invite you to sit a written exam. Now, this written exam happens in March, June, September, and December. So 4 times a year it happens. Lucky you. During our times, it was only twice. And twice a year it happens in Delhi. So March and September, I think. Yeah, March and September it happens in Delhi. So you can actually sit the registration exams here. So if you're taking the pathway of direct migration, you don't have to go there. You sit the written exam out here. So written exam, what is it all about? It's two papers. Both the papers have 15 cases each, and there'll be multiple choice questions. So these are all multiple choice questions. If you refer to the booklet, again, I'm kind of not game enough to switch off and go share the booklet, but I've got the booklet on my screen as well, which I can show you, but I'll show you that towards the end. So you refer to the booklet. There are question examples in there. It's quite simple. It's quite easy. You can't go wrong. The only way I think people make mistakes here is they're so scared and they're in such a hurry to write that they don't read the questions properly. You have to tick the most appropriate block. And I will when I cover how to prepare for these exams, I will tell you how you can make sure you don't make the same mistakes. Then so basically what happens is you get around 3 months. Now written exams registration closes 3 months in advance. So if you want to sit a paper in June, before the 1st of March, you have to let APC know that you want to sit in June. So there you go. If you are intelligent, you get 3 to 4 months of preparation time. Otherwise, at least 3 months of preparation time. Once you've got your screen, you go, yep, I know this is how long it's going to take. Is 3 months enough? I think it is, depending on how you're preparing for it. Again, I will come to that when we do the preparation bit. Now, and the last part of this is once you've cleared your written exams, I think the results are out in 6 weeks. Let me just quickly check. Sorry, there's so much information. I had to actually make notes. Yeah. So the results come out in 6 weeks. So you get good 6 weeks to relax or to prepare for your clinicals. And then you have to give the clinical exam. As you see, it is quite pricey. $4,200 is not a small amount, but at the same time, it's quite worth it. You have to do the clinical exams in within 6 months of passing your written exams. So basically, there'll be 3 practical exams that you're tested in, 3 subjects: MSK, Neuro, and the last one is CVS RS. So all the 3 happen in the same day. The exams are divided such that they're 75-minute each. Now they are pretty consistent on time, so you want to make sure that you are there. And now things happen in a simulated lab. Like, so we used to see live patients, but now you go in a simulated lab. Basically what it means is it's a hospital setup, and they have actors, and believe me, the actors are very good. And you kind of do the whole practical on the actors as if they're suffering from whatever they come up with. So basically what they will do out there is they will give you case notes. They'll give you 10 minutes. Is it 10 minutes? I'm just going to quickly look at it. Yeah, so you get 10 minutes of reading time. Then you have 5 minutes of summarizing your patient. Then you get 50 minutes with the patient and 10 minutes of reporting time. So all of this is on the website. I mean, you don't need to worry. By the time you get to the point where you're going to give the exams, things might change a little bit. But this is just so that you're prepared and you're aware that this is what the process can look like. And once you've cleared the clinical exam, hooray, you've done it. Life is easy after that. Don't have to do much. Preparation. How do you prepare for something that is so important in life? Important not only because it's a life changer, but important also because a lot of finances are involved in this. End of the day, if you know that you're not going to be able to stay back and earn all the dough that you've invested, it gets a bit tricky. All right. So in preparation, and lucky us, these days there are lots of organizations that actually help you. I mean, 18, 20 years ago when we gave the exams, we had not kind of no help whatsoever. We had to do all the studies by ourselves. I mean, APC does give you a reference booklet. Look at the booklet. It also gives you topics that you need to study. And nowadays there are lots of organizations that actually help you through it. Everybody knows APTA. APTA is easily available on, I mean, you can easily find them on Facebook. They run regular courses, and they also guide you with the process. So APTA is one resource that you can look into. The other is APP, that's Australian Physio Prep. They do similar things to APTA. Then there's Physio Plus. What I really liked is this Richard, Mr. Richard. He's at APC Cardio Rest course. He runs a 2-day course on cardiorespiratory system, and he actually takes you through the stimulated labs. Now you have virtual tours available on the APC website, so you don't fear the place. And I think a day before you give the clinical exam, they walk you through the lab, so you're familiar with the environment you're going to be giving your clinicals in. So all of that is pretty good. I mean, but it is still different. So these people help you a bit more. There are lots of question banks as well that a lot of your seniors who've given the exams in the last 5 years will have. So talk to your seniors. Get in touch with me if you need some. I've got some resources that if I can help you out with. So basically it's not that difficult. There's lots of help available if you need. But how are you going to prepare for these exams? I'll tell you what we did, and it worked because we cleared it in the first go when settling down in Australia was just a dream for many of us. So if we can do it, which we think was not big, I think everybody can, and a lot of people are doing. So you can easily don't worry about those exams, because you have to think the way an Australian does. What is an Australian physio expected? Can you identify the clinical patterns? Can you identify the associated red flags? A simple example is if you get a acute back pain case, do you screen the abdomen? Do you check with them? Do they have any abdomen pain? Do they have any abdomen tenderness? What do you do if you find a pulsation in the abdomen? Do you tell them that's fine? I think you've got some problem. You need to go see your GP, or you make an appointment, call a cab, and send them to the emergency. because it could be an AAA. You don't know, give them a call, give their doctors a call. The doctors will straight away send them to the emergency anyways. You make a call to the hospital closest to you and tell them, I'm sending a patient, blah, blah, blah. He's got these symptoms. Do you think I need to send them to the emergency room right now? If you're not sure. So there's a lot of reason that, that's what they're looking at. They're looking at practical things. So can you recognize those red flags? Do you screen for associated flags? Again, another example can be if you get a neck patient, do you start treating the necks without actually checking their BBI? You will fail. If you don't test for BBI before doing a cervical MOB, you will fail straight away. So, but it's not that difficult. If you have that pattern in your mind, you will do it, and it's easy. So basically, what else are they looking for? Can you talk to your clients? Can you get the relevant information out of them? Can you are you empathetic towards them? Do you give them a complete package? Do you give them exercises? Do you give them a sheet to do exercises with? Do they give, if they're an OA patient, do you give them more information on OA? An asthmatic patient, do you give them more information on asthma and how they can go and join the Asthma Institute? So basically, that's what they are looking for. And see, it's not that hard. It's simple things that we as physios are always empathetic, so we can easily do it. So while preparing, go through the conditions list that APC has given in their website and start studying those conditions. So basically, it's year 3 syllabus. Go through the resources, go through the books, go through the condition, look at asthma, what are the causes, how can you treat it better, what is the evidence-based, current evidence-based treatment for it, and how you can avoid it, and all those kind of things. What's the physiology behind it, how can you reduce it? The other bit you want to research is look at the common conditions that happen in Australia. The chances are they're going to test you on that. Cystic fibrosis, COPD, asthma, neuro cases, more autism, less polio. They don't have polio over there. OA, muscular dystrophy. Those are the kind of things you want to study more in details. Follow good hygiene. When you get a patient onto your bed, make sure you wipe the bed clean. Make sure you even if the bed looks clean, make sure you will at least mention it that I'm going to quickly check if this is wiped off. So you want to clean the bed before the patient gets on the table. If you made the patient lie down on their tummy, have you put a pillow under their ankles to make them feel more comfortable? Simple things like that. So see, preparation is not that difficult. If you have any queries, do let me know. I don't think I've missed out on anything there. Now, so let's look at the next bit. Now, the other thing that I was going to say is when you're studying for your exams, one way of looking at it is don't study to clear the exams. Study so that you are a good physio. You are a better version of yourself. So tomorrow you get into the system and you don't do anything that's going to harm somebody else. And if you prepare like that, you'll find it's very easy. Okay. Once you've done all of this, once you clear your exams, your clinical exams, you can go to APRA website, you can apply for registration. Once you go get your registration, you go through the point system again and you apply for your immigration. By this time, you'll have ample of knowledge about what kind of immigration you want to choose. There's skilled independent, there's skilled, there's point-based system. So all of that, it's going to be easy. After that, you don't even need sometimes to go through a migration agent. You have any doubts, check with the immigration department website or check with them. Check all the dot points, make sure you've cleared all the requirements that they have, check that your points are up to mark, and then you can apply yourself. What sometimes people do out there is you make your own file, so you don't actually go to an immigration agent to get them to do your file. You do all the research, you do all the groundwork, you prepare your file, combine it together, and then take it to a migration agent just for them to go through. So you're only paying them that hourly rate of the time that they have sat there and physically seen your application. Just to kind of give you peace of mind. Cross-check with 10 different people before you put your application through that. Do you have all the documents that you need? And it's easy. The next bits that you will have to do for your migration is your English exams. Some of the universities will also need you to sit in English exams. So we all know English exams. We all have been doing IELTS for long. But what we don't know is there's a testing called as OET. So what's OET is it's occupational English testing. It's a test that is done specifically for medical people. So basically what it means is nurses, doctors, dentists, physios, psychologists sit this exam. It's easy for us is because the exam is undertaken in a professional scenario. So it's easy to relate to them. So it's like as if you're talking to a patient. So it makes it easier for us to talk. It is a bit dearer, but also because if you fail a part of the English exam, you don't sit the whole exam again. You just sit the part that you have failed. Does that make sense? But you want to check with the immigration department that they allow clubbing of results, and your uni as well. Most of them don't have an issue, but you just want to double check that they allow for that clubbing. IELTS does not have that clubbing. So that's a difference for us. So some of us are continuously failing just one part of the exam. So this may be the answer at some point. Both the tests are valid for 2 years. They're easily available online. Go through the websites and research it, decide which test you want to take. OET is also, I think when I was researching it, I saw that it's available in Ahmedabad as well. I know Peer Academy does it. So if you want, look up Peer Academy as in PEER Academy. But otherwise, if you just research, you can get information from a lot of resources. By the way, it's valid in UK, Australia, New Zealand, Spain, Dubai, Ukraine. I have heard through the grapevine that some states in America and some states in Canada are also allowing it, but it's yet not fully official. But there we go. It is an alternative if you ever wish to go down that pathway. So that's the English language testing. Now let's just go through costs. So if you want to migrate to Australia, what are the costs that you're looking at? Quite a bit. Eligibility is 1120. These are all dollars. Cultural safety 225. Written exam is 1930. Clinical test is 4,200. $56 for admin fees, and all of these are charged at 1.5%. So your written, cultural, and clinical eligibility and clinical also charge 1.5% transaction fees. And then depending on what kind of a visa you apply for, you either go for 1450 or 1650. So roughly it's somewhere around 7 lakh to 8 lakh rupees, Indian rupees, that you're looking at. Is this a big amount? Yes, it is. Is it an amount that it's impossible to invest? No, because once you get there, earning that back is not going to be too hard. When you get there to study, and this is on top of all your study fees, your tuition fees and all. But remember, if you are hardworking and if you have a goal in your life, you will work hard. And while you're studying, you will do alternate jobs. Hopefully you'll do jobs that are your profession related. So you learn while you're studying, and also you're adding points. Remember, if you work in your profession for a year, you get added points in your migration point system. You will earn back some of that. You'll have holidays where you can work 2-3 shifts. A lot of people do that. But just be mindful when you're doing all of this. Go ahead, do it. It kind of makes you feel very proud inside when you're self-made, but at the same time, have fun. You study only once. You go through this phase only once in life, so have a little bit of respectable fun. So do have a life, but at the same time, make sure you're achieving your goals, and you kind of self-reliant. And that's what Modi ji is saying, telling everyone, isn't it? Self-reliance, that's what we need to do. Atmanirbharta. And I think you can easily avail that. And there's a big difference in Australia. Here we study, we get married, have kids, work, we retire. It's not like that there. There you can study, you can get married in between, you can study, you can change professions, you can retire, and you can study again. I mean if you just look at a quick, if I tell you about me, I did my graduation, then I worked for 2 years, then I did my masters, then I worked for a good 10-15 years, and then I did a course in radio jockeying. So I got a degree in radio jockeying. Then I kind of, in 2018 was my last degree. I did a lot of multiple small degrees which were not relevant to physio at all. And then in 2018, I got my last degree in ergonomics and OHS. So after 18-20 years of gap, I did another degree. And so it's, what I'm trying to tell you is, don't think that this is the be all and end all of your life. There's lots more. Look at the next 20-30 years and you can do lots more. So make the best of it. And that's about the process. Now, I just thought very quickly I will cover what life in Australia is like. Quick do's and don'ts. I know most of you don't need it, but unfortunately, our habits are different to what habits are followed then, and not a lot of people get an opportunity to know it or understand it before they get there, so they learn it the hard way. Simple etiquettes and rules: you don't talk on the mobile sitting on the dining table or sitting in a group of people. Mobile is not more important than the person sitting in front of you. If you have to take that call, step out of the room, excuse yourself, step out of the room and talk. Don't talk loudly. If you're staying in an apartment, don't walk in front of your neighbor's door and talk loudly. You're disturbing their private time. Don't spit in public. Don't clean your nose in public. Believe me, how many times we've seen people do this, and that's not really very nice. The other thing is never talk in a vernacular language in front of people who don't understand English, or don't understand your language. So stick to English, or if you have to talk in vernacular language, excuse yourself. Say, sorry, I'm talking to my mom. I'll have to get down to my language to talk, and they're fine. And then they'll get into fun with you and they'll enjoy. Don't make them feel. Don't segregate yourself. If you want to go there, become one with the stream. Don't segregate yourself. But otherwise, I think Indians are pretty well accepted there as well, only because we just so kind and empathetic and so respectful culturally that everybody just loves us there. As long as we're careful of how we deal with things, things are pretty easy for most of us. So with that, I think I come to an end of my thing, and this is a thank you special, especially by my daughter. She told me this will kill my presentation. I hope it has. But then this is the thank you for me. So thank you for listening. If you need any more details, feel free to email me at the uni email address, or you can email it to sir or anyone, and they'll pass it on to me. What I'm going to do, Dhruv said, I'm going to quickly try to share my other screen and see if that works. If I stop sharing my screen, or if my screen goes off, can you please tell me?
Sure, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So this is the site, APRA site, which tells you whether your course is approved. So if you put in details, it'll tell you like this: the program that you want to study in, the university, the campus, what is the profession, what degree you come up with, and is it approved, is it an approved status or not. So you can get your details from APRA. You usually have to just put in a new search. You put in the new search, then you can look up your course. Sorry? Okay, so then we come down to points calculator. So basically, I'm just going to close this website now, and I'm going to take you through to points calculator. So this is the point calculation for your migration, what we talked about. So if you go to the immigration website and the link that I've shared over there, that link there, you go through your age, how many points it gives you, English language. That's when you passed your test, you get that 10. And skilled employment experience, and it takes you through all the details. It also gives you lists, links. So now this is giving you the link to the SOL list. So that's easy. It also has a point calculator site where it kind of tells you what visa type are you wanting to apply. Once you click that, so if I say I want to apply for skilled independent visa, then it kind of tells me what's my age, and once I fill in my age, so if I say I am 30 or 25, whatever, then it tells me my English language calculation. So it goes through the whole step, and at the end of it, it tells me if what kind, how many points do I get. So that's your points calculator. And this is the APC website. Now, this is your go-to site for everything you need. Like, day, night, first thing in the morning, if you're planning to go to Australia, first thing in the morning when you wake up, spend 5 minutes with it. Before you go to sleep, spend 5 minutes with it. So you go to the overseas practitioner, and it gives you all of this. So if you go through getting started, it'll take you through the steps of what you need to do and how eligible are you. So it'll ask you your personal details. If I go through standard assessment pathway, oh, I think that's what's open. So if I'm going through standard assessment pathway, it tells me what the requirements are. There's also for standard assessment, for the clinical part, you need insurance, professional indemnity. But right now, APA, that's Australian Physiotherapy Association, is giving you free registration for it. So you're safe there. and it gives all the details. So it gives you details about, if you kind of just hover the yeah, so it gives you details about how much it's going to cost, and what certificates you're going to need. If you scroll down more, you see the flyer system. That's what you want to check with your uni, whether your course falls under that flyer system or not. And they've got their contact details here, so always get in touch with them if there's any issues. When you are, what's this, let me look. So that's the APA website that you can get all your details in. And no, that's not what I'm looking for. Okay, so now I'm going to share some other links with you. So this is a written assessment fact sheet that you will find on the on the APC website, which tells you, gives you information about what's going to happen, where it is conducted, how you'll be scored, what kind of questions there are in it. So it actually gives you an example of questions. Now remember, APC also has a kind of bank of questions themselves. They have more than 72 questions of probable cases that they have picked, that over the years they think are relevant. So you go through that, and it gives you an scoring and tells you how they score you. So you also know what they're expecting out of you. And this is the content. So musculoskeletal, there they've given you the kind of anomalies they are looking for, neurology, and you name it, it's all in there. It's basically year 3 syllabus, where you go through all the medical conditions. I mean, it was year 3 when I passed out. I don't know what it is in terms of STEM currently, but I know you guys would know. And they've given you a resource list, the books that they think will give you knowledge. But again, having said that, some universities have come up with different banks of collection of books, and your seniors will know all about it, which are a lot more relevant to the APC exam testing. So like the written exam, there's also clinical exam assessment book, so you can go through it. Pretty self-reliant. If there's anything in there that you don't understand, you can ask me, ask any of your seniors, and if not me, go ask APC. If you can't get hold of me, APC will answer it for you as well. But say, don't worry, just sit and read it carefully. I think that's about it. Well, thank you. I'll stop sharing my screen now. All yours. Any questions, Dr. Dhruv?
Thank you, ma'am, for.
Sorry to interrupt you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to know about there is a one visa called 491.
Yeah.
The temporary temporary visa, I think for 5 years. So what is about that?
Sorry, who's this? I don't know your name. Can I know?
Actually, I am Himangini Patel, Dr. Himangini Patel, a physiotherapist.
Oh, hi, Himangini. See, I don't know much about the details about 491. So depending on which profession you're applying under, but if you look it up on the immigration website, or give me some time, I can get more details out for it. As I said, most of the times we cannot give out immigration details because we are liable. We are not migration agents. But I can tell you things. I mean, I can say that this, I can refer links to you. So if you send me your email, I'll send you the links that can give you that information.
Yeah, sure, ma'am. I will send you my email address on your email ID.
Yeah, and send the question as well.
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
Okay. Now,
Yeah,
there's
thank you.
Prachi. Yeah, thank you. Welcome, Himangi. Sorry, Dr. Dhruv, do you want me to read the chat group questions?
If those are available to you, and if we can answer those questions, that is always grateful. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so there's someone here who's saying that what's the criteria for degree assessment? What is the procedure? I've completed BPT recently and I want to work in Australia and want to pass registration exam. How can I get material for registration exam? Is it uploaded on internet? I think most of these questions, Prachi, I have already addressed. So I think your degree assessment is pretty simple. Is you just have to give all your documents. The list of documents is available on the APC website, it'll be things like your transcript for all the 3-4 years that you've done, your degree, your photographs, self-assessment list, and other bits and pieces. You can go through the list and you put it in through a Dropbox once you think you've got them all. Remember, with all your APC or immigration processes, you cannot afford to go wrong. I mean, if you're missing a document, they will ask for it. If you can provide it, it's fine. But if you go, oh, I don't have this, I will give this exam and then get back to you in 3 months, they will not accept it and the money is not refundable. So you want to make sure that you've collected all your documents prior to applying. And there are lots of resources that they have given on that APC eligibility tab, where you can cross-check if you've got all those documents. How you can prepare, I think we've covered that as well. Start with looking at different topics. So take up Hemi, take neuro, go through all the probable ones, CP, hemiplegia, amputation though is more musculoskeletal, but you know what I mean. Go through all those topics, and once you've covered your year 3 syllabus, then you go down to year 2. There are lots of short courses, as I said, lots of webinars that are being conducted in Australia, and people doing it specifically for APC courses. Now remember, all these will be at a cost. I mean, not many of them are free. So you have to weigh out, can you do this by yourself or do you need to attend the course to get that information? Like for me, I am a musculoskeletal person. So for me to know cardio, when I gave my exams, I'd left cardio for 5 years. So for me, I would have loved to do a short course that would give me kind of refresh all that cardio knowledge in my mind. But that's a call that you will make. So those are all the resources, and talk to your seniors. A lot of your seniors have the resources because they've studied for it and they can pass it on to you for free. So yeah, how can we practice for written and clinical exams? APC, again, APC has questions. So they will kind of, that question bank, 72 question bank that I have said, look it up, Google it up, and it'll give you links to get those questions out. Or ask APC, okay, I want to do some practice exams. Do you have mock exams links? And if they don't, tell them that you should. And they will make sure that they do it. If not for you, by the time the next batch of students come in, they'll have the link ready. They are ever changing. Okay, ma'am, could you please, and if we all don't find any materials, get in touch with me. I can give you what I have. It's not much, but whatever I have, I'll try and share. I've already given my contact number and email address. If we take Masters of Physiotherapy course there, and if it is accredited course of APC, then still do we need to, yeah. Not all your master's courses give you the right to registration because you are basic undergraduate overseas. Now, this is something that I didn't tell, that a lot of us have done. They get there and they're so worried about passing the license exam that instead of doing their master's there, they start at the undergraduate level. So you actually go there only if you've done your graduation year there. So if you do your Bachelor of Physiotherapy in Australia, you get automatic registration. In a sense, you just apply for it. You don't have to sit the exams. So that's a pathway that you can take, but it's very dear because then that means you're paying 4 years of international student fees. And license exam, everybody is just scared of it. I think if you look at it differently, it is not that hard. Just change the way you think about those courses. It's not an exam to clear the exam. It's an exam to test whether you're going to be safe out there. And it's for your own good, is because Australia is a litigation country. If you do something wrong, you can be sued for it. Worst scenario is you'll always have that on your head that you caused pain to someone, unnecessary pain or unnecessary trouble to someone. So guilty, you'll always feel guilty. And on top, you may be litigated. So you'll have to pay fine, and through the whole process of going to the court. I mean, it's not that bad going to the court. Every health professional overseas goes to the court once at least. But it is a trauma. It's a process that you go to, because we as people don't like going to court, and we wouldn't want to go to court is because we don't want to cause harm to anyone. So look at it differently, and I think you will pass it. It should be all right. Any other questions?
Ma'am, one more thing. Yeah, Ma'am Himangini again.
Yeah.
I just want to know again that suppose if, for example, I completed that standard assessment pathway, right? Written as well as the clinical test, both I clear. So then also there is a need to clear the license exam.
No, so when you're clearing the written and the clinical exam, you're actually clearing the license exam. The license exam is the written and the clinical exam. So
Okay.
again,
So
so
it is,
first you get your undergraduation degrees qualified. So they have they've said that yes, you are eligible to work as a physio here. Then you sit the written exam. You pass the written exam, then you sit the clinical exam. So at the end of
okay.
it, they go, yes, you are safe enough to work as a physio in Australia. So once you get that certificate from them, you go to APRA. You tell APRA, this is my qualification. This is the certificate that APC has given me. They've cleared me for physio registration. And APRA will tell you, awesome, you registered for 1 year to practice. Come back next year and re-register, because you've got to renew your registration every year.
Every year.
So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, so that is the process. So once you've given that, you don't need to give any more exams.
Okay. And is it too much hard? Actually, I'm little bit feared about the written exam and practical exam as well.
I think written exams is not too hard, because it's simple case scenarios, and there are questions. If you look at the questions, they'll ask you things like, I can't tell you what they'll ask, but what I'm saying is they'll be looking at, are you safe? So if somebody comes to you, say if they're asthmatic, and you're going to give them chest physiotherapy because they're here for, say, some fracture, and because they're old, you don't want them to have chest conditions, and you've got to give them chest physiotherapy. So do you start going tuck 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 without checking their medications? Because you don't know, and if they turn out to be asthmatic and if they are on steroids, you need to be careful. Is because their bones could be very porous and you could cause a fracture. So basically, those are the kind of scenarios they'll come up with, and they'll ask you, the mother is asking you this, how safe is the child? Do they need to take the medication? All the answers will be in the question, as long as you know the condition.
Okay.
So you should be able to identify what clinical pattern is. I think once you practice a few questions and you get your theory right, it will be easy. And as I said, go through the question banks. And if you're not very sure, the webinars that are being held, I mean, just go for it. I know it's a bit of an expense, but if you're really,
Okay.
really worried, go for it. But I think passing the written exams is not as bad. It's the clinical part that people struggle with,
Okay.
because you're scared. English is not our first language, so what happens is we don't come out with the right kind of questions. We can't get information out of the patients sometimes. So basically what you want to do is, if you're thinking of going to Australia now, from now onwards, stop talking in whatever language you talk in other than English. Stop thinking in that language. The moment we
Yeah.
stop thinking in our mother tongue, what happens is most of us talk English. We don't talk English. We think in our mother tongue. So we think either in Gujarati or Hindi or Marathi or whatever it is. And then we translate that language to English and we speak. So that's where most of us, our sentences formed are not correct. But again, as I said, they are multicultural. They are used to different levels of English. So don't worry about that either. Just kind of get in there and keep your red flags addressed, and you'll be fine. You should be fine.
Yeah, because there's a problem with the slang also, Australian slang and our Indian English slang. Yeah.
True. But they are mindful of that. They don't expect you to know the slang. And sometimes,
Okay.
see, Australians are very fun loving. They are people who crack jokes all the time. The first time I sat an exam, this was my exam, not my license exam, but my master's exam. And when I was in there, and this patient came through, and he knew I was being tested. So we were given this list of questions that you have to ask. And you know how worried you are, that I went and I read the first question that came up there, and I said, "Oh, how are you going?" Because how you going is the Australian way of saying how you are. How are you? So I
Okay.
said, "Oh, how are you going?" And he goes up and he tells, "Oh, I'm going by bus." And I was shocked, because that was not the answer I was expecting. I was like, I didn't know what to say next. And then he started
Yeah,
laughing.
yes,
And
that is the problem with our Indian English. Yeah.
no, but the whole thing is, no, that's what I'm trying to tell you. He was joking. And that
Yes.
joke of his broke the ice for me. From
Yeah.
that moment onwards, I was so relaxed and comfortable. And your teachers are like that as well. There is
Okay.
there's no stiff collar attitude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're very friendly. They will crack a joke with you. If you're nervous, they'll make you more nervous. But that's only one way of
Okay.
getting you more friendly. But with the APC exams, they're a bit more neutral. They don't give you any expressions. They're not allowed to. because they cannot encourage you or guide you in the right direction. So they won't go yes, yes, oh yeah, they won't do anything. They'll just stand back and listen to what you're saying. You'll have to be confident of what you're saying.
Yeah, okay. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But otherwise the people are good. I wish you all the best.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah,
Ma'am,
sir.
I have one question that in general, if someone who would like to move to Australia, maybe for their masters or eventually clearing the license exam, like when we had done it for our US people, they have suggested few of the books that if they are doing it thoroughly, that would be helpful. So should we consider that particular books that if we are thorough with, that would be a great help? If you can
I
name a
think
few.
the Bruckner and stuff for MSK I can tell.
Okay.
Neurocardio, sorry, I'm not done neurocardio for more than 20 years, so I'm not entirely sure. But I know the list of books that they gave, the APC website gives, that works. So Bruckner and Khan, and I would suggest even other than following a book, you want to research that topic, look at evidence. So you develop, what we do out there is we do clinical patterns. So I look at 12 papers and I look at a clinical pattern. So if I'm doing ONE, I will look at all relevant recent research and then I will add that as my treatment approach. So I will not necessarily follow what the book is saying. Does that make sense? But yes, your Toby's helps, your Bruckner and Khan helps. So all of those books that give you details of the condition would help you. But I can put up a list again on my email. So I don't know, we can work out, if anybody is interested in a list of books, I can put together a list of books for them. I
I
just
have
kind
got
of know that.
I have got two questions.
Yes.
The first question is that you said that none of the Indian universities have got the course recognized by the APC. Am I right? Australian Physiotherapy Council.
For the
So,
equivalence of qualification pathway, yes.
Yeah. So how difficult is the APC qualification, or what are the steps that we have to take as a university?
Sir, there is a fact sheet over there in which they have asked the different objectives and how are those objectives met, the different measures. So if UNI can provide proof that, say for this objective, we have assessed our students like this, we have trained our students like this, and this is the proof for it, I think that is enough for them. They want
Okay.
our degree to be equivalent to their undergraduation level 7 degree.
Okay, fine. And second question is that after the bachelor's from India, am I right?
Yeah.
So what are the type of programs they have got? Like we are hearing that they have got MSK of 1 year program or 2 year programs. So how that is equivalent to? Can you throw a light on that? What type of
Sorry,
programs are
sir,
available?
the last part of it I missed. What were you saying, sir?
Can you
1
throw
year
a
and
light on
after?
the master's program for the children who has done physiotherapy from India in Australia? Because there are a lot of diploma programs are there, or a 1 year program or 2 year programs. So how to differentiate those things?
So basically, masters in Australia is 1 year.
Okay.
So if you do a master's just in sports, it kind of, they do it in a year's time. If you're doing a double masters, in the sense if you're doing it in two fields, like you're doing orthopedic, manual, musculoskeletal, orthopedic / musculoskeletal sports and manipulations, then they spread it over 2 years. So that's like doing a sports masters and a musculoskeletal masters under 1 degree. So then it's a 2-year program. So all of those have equal value over there. So you can do your master's program in kinesiology, you can do your master's in physiotherapy, you can do a general master's in physiotherapy. There is something as doctorate in physiotherapy. I am not quite I am not very happy with that course, but these other different masters are fine. They still are valid. If you go out in the field, if you say you've done 1 year of masters, it's still recognizable. But the problem there is, what people have to be, especially Indians, when they're going there, they've got to be mindful of is they've got to see the points that they are getting against it. Because for the number of years you've spent in Australian education gives you points. So if you go through the point chart, if they go through the point chart, they will know if that just 1 year of masters is going to be enough for them, or going to give them enough points for meeting the migration point system. So a 2 years masters program is what I would prefer. And some of these masters program, like the general masters, some universities will give you registration at the end of it. But these general masters are also, sir, things that people will come and do who are not physios. So you'll get a say exercise physiologist. You'll get maybe a general bio student. People from other fields come in to do that master's. So in 2 years, they teach you everything about physiotherapy and they give you masters in physiotherapy. And so at the end of it, you also get the right to practice there. So you get a right to get registered.
Thank you, madam.
Okay, thank you so much.
Good evening, ma'am. I have one question. I'm Nishit Reddy. Like, in case
Hi,
we are getting, in case we get an admission for masters, then is there like wide difference in the education system like that we have done in our university compared to what they are doing or they are going through?
you mean general masters, or you mean
Yeah, like I mean
musculoskeletal
the
masters?
general education, like the process they go through over there
Yeah. See,
compared to our
over there,
university.
depending on your course, even if it's a totally course-based education, one thing that we all have to learn is a lot of research. So nowadays, luckily for at least our college, I know because I've seen our college working in details, we do a lot of research. We are constantly reading articles, cross-checking references. We know what plagiarism is, and we know how to put reports together. So their education system is going to be quite like that. What is going to be really important and different for you is the clinical setup. The clinical setup there is very practical. You've got to make a lot of notes, and you've got to make notes every time you see a patient. So you'll have to get your the writing in order, and you'll have to follow all those protocols, because these reports will be assessed every time. So yes, overall the education system is very different. You are learning a lot. You'll be constantly going to the library, taking up papers. All your assignments will need, like, 50 reference lists and stuff like that. You'll be doing a lot in those ways. You will enjoy it. I mean, I think bottom line, it won't be hard. It will be a different way of doing it, and they will guide you. So if you kind of go and tell them this is what you are, most of the times they have known enough. They know students coming from this part of the world or that part of the world. The education system there is like that, so they will guide you in terms of whatever you're missing out on. But are you an ARIP student? Sorry if you don't mind me asking.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
great.
I've just
So I
started.
think you may not find it too hard, is because we already have that kind of systems in place where we are referring. I mean, other colleges will as well. It's only that I don't know how they function. But what I've seen at ARIP, you'll find that it's pretty easy.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, that's what we will come to the end of the session. We from ARIP thank Dr. Neelam Patel madam for providing us wonderful insights for Australia. We thank all the participants for this particular webinar. We thank Bala sir and ARIP and Charuset for organizing this particular webinar for how to move to Australia. We look forward in future for the similar kind of webinar from ARIP. Thank you. Thanks once again. Have a nice time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Very quickly, sir, there's one question here which is quite important. I'm so sorry, I just read it. It's just that somebody's asking if you get an assistant physiotherapy job while you're studying masters. Yes, you can. You've got 20 hours of legal rights to work. So for those 20 hours a week, you can get a PTA job, and I think you should, because then that builds towards your points as well. So you can get a job as a PTA, or you can get a job as a limited registration physio. So you need somebody else to take care of you, kind of thing. Sorry. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks all. Bye-bye. Have a nice time.
Bye.